I'm trying to chop it up like damn. I'm loud as a bitch. I'm trying to chop it up like Sensei. I don't know how to go. Like 8-8. Seven Guapo is live. I'm finally back. Look at me. Can I hear myself? What we gonna see? It's been so long. I've been away for this for too long. But we back, y'all. We finna start getting the clips. I'm here. See my face. I'm here. See me. On the G. This shit laggy. I'm here. See me. On the G. This shit laggy. All right, Bentley. I think we good now. I think we good now. I wonder is it at the top instead of the bottom. So what I should do, yeah, yeah. I know how to direct sound waves and shit now. Y'all welcome for that. I wonder is it at the top instead of the bottom. So what I should do, I'm watching the clip live. I'm watching the clip live. All right, my fault. But okay. But nah, I'm back, y'all. I done been through some shit, man. I've been through a lot of shit. Despite all that, we here. And that's all that matters. And we keep grinding. And I keep on producing content for people that love me. Alright, we're back. I was just watching a video while playing Power World. It's not letting me show y'all like the gameplay of the Power World thing, so I ain't gonna trip on that. We just gone. Y'all just it's just this I like thing. It's at first it was today is my off day. Today is my off day, so it's just this day is for me. So I'm really just streaming to see like what I was doing at this time, you feel me? To see how my experience was, how my rest has been. And if I'm this far back from the mic, all right, let's see if that's good. But yeah, I just been producing songs. I've been learning how to engineer songs, and I got really good at it. And I'm just trying to make a little bit of extra money, as long as my main job with it. Let's check my volume now. Sound waves and shit now. At first, it was today's my off day. Today is my off day, so it's just this day is for me. So I'm really just streaming to see like what I was doing at this time. See how my experience was, how my rest has been. And if I'm this far back from the mic, all right, let's see if that's good. But yeah, I just been producing songs. I've been learning how to engineer songs. And then y'all could barely. Oh damn, my fault. Y'all could barely fucking see me. Like, how are y'all gonna see my reactions? Like, there you go.
In years of prior supervision. Interviewing associates in person rather than by level 1.
I watched a little bit of the video, so my fault. But we still getting jiggy to it.
Bail jumper. You post bail on a minor charge
and I didn't put what we're reacting to, so it is, don't mind that. How the U.S. Marshals catch you at every level. So if like you running from the police type shit.
And instead of showing up for your court date, you just don't go. No dramatic escape, no plan, just a decision to not be there when your name gets called. This is where the story usually starts, because failing to appear converts a minor charge into something the system takes far more seriously than the original offense. A warrant gets issued the same day, and if the original charge involved federal jurisdiction or the failure to appear itself becomes a federal matter, the U.S. Marshal Service inherits the case, because few...
It's if you finna go on the run, my nigga, you gotta have that shit already made up. If you finna take this shit So dead ass, nigga. You better. It's like there ain't no point of going on a run because like you gonna slip up eventually. Like even if you get a little 20 years, it's like damn, do you want to go to jail in 20 years? Like you can't dodge your own actions. That's crazy. Like they won't let you, especially if it's on paper. They not finna let you just get away, live happily. Eventually you gonna get caught, and then they gonna look up your papers. You're supposed to be in jail, and then now you're there for the rest of your life. It's like even if you're gonna run for a couple years, I guess you just move out of Mexico. Just move out of country. Live the rest of your life down there. But like, can you do that as a hood nigga from a hood nigga to Mexicano? You feel me? Stay out that system, my niggas. It's made to fucking deprave you, my nigga. Don't do no shit to get in there. And plus, there ain't no hoes in jail. So, fuck you in there for,
Fugitive
pussy.
apprehension is their primary mission. More than any other federal agency, this is specifically what they exist to do. At this level, the investigation is almost entirely paperwork driven. A deputy marshal pulls your last known address, your employer, your vehicle registration, and your known associates.
Nigga, on your ass, nigga. On your fucking ass. Like, they checking every normal spot you would be at. So if you not at none of these spots, now they finna be pissed, thinking like, oh nah, this nigga playing with us, right? This nigga, we finna catch him. We finna rough him up a bit when we catch him. Cause like if you not at those spots on a daily and they check like 5 times, they just gonna knock their head. On that 5th day, they gon' nigga ain't come to his job in 5 days. How the fuck he be affording them weak ass Amiris? That nigga ran. They checked the nigga Instagram. No more Amiris for that nigga. Yeah, he on the run. I bet.
From existing databases before ever leaving the office. Most bail jumpers at this level aren't hiding especially well. They're just going back to their normal life and hoping nobody follows up. That assumption is usually wrong. Deputies working these cases describe the majority of low-level fugitives as findable within days simply by checking the 2 or 3 places any reasonable person would guess first: home, work, and family. The Marshals Service prioritizes these cases differently than people expect. A low-level bail jumper isn't treated with the urgency of a violent fugitive, but the sheer volume of these warrants, tens of thousands active at any given time across the country, means deputies develop an efficient, almost routine process for clearing them. Many of these cases resolve not through a dramatic arrest, but through a phone call to the fugitive's own attorney, who often convinces a client to simply turn themselves in once it's clear the warrant isn't going to quietly disappear on its own. Level 2, the parole absconder. You cut off your ankle monitor or simply stop reporting to your parole officer, and now you're not just wanted, you're a known quantity who deliberately...
With Google Play Games, you can play unlocked.
Weak ass ass. See, but that's the type of commitment you need, my nigga. If you finna gonna run, nigga, you should have been out of. You should been took that motherfucker off.
Broke a specific documented agreement. This changes the marshal's approach considerably from level 1 because a parole file comes with years of documented history, known associates, family relationships, past addresses, and behavioral patterns collected across your entire time under supervision. Deputies working absconder cases treat this file as a roadmap rather than a blank search because someone who's been monitored for years has left a much richer trail than a first-time bail jumper ever does. The Marshals Service runs dedicated fugitive task forces in most major metropolitan areas specifically built around this kind of case. Regional teams combining deputies with local and state officers who know a specific area's geography and community networks intimately. These task forces work through a structured process, reviewing the absconder's full file, interviewing every listed associate in person rather than by phone, and cross-referencing utility and employment records against the addresses those interviews turn up. Most absconders get caught within the first few weeks, specifically because breaking parole doesn't erase the relationships and habits documented in years of prior supervision.
So basically, nigga, they been watching you. Like usually when my fault. But usually when you like go on the run, you're supposed to like not do normal things. That's like life is different now. That's like I switched up on these niggas. So yeah, nigga. Like what?
Interviewing associates in person rather than by phone matters more than it might seem. A phone conversation gives someone time to think through an answer and decide what to withhold. An unannounced visit at someone's home or workplace, deputies who work these cases explain, often produces an involuntary reaction, a glance toward a back room, a specific hesitation before answering a simple question that reveals more than the actual words spoken ever could. This is a deliberately low-tech method, surviving inside an otherwise increasingly digital investigative process, precisely because it still works as reliably as it always has. Level 3. Unlawful flight across state lines. Once you cross a state border to avoid prosecution, the case shifts entirely into federal territory, because unlawful flight to avoid prosecution is itself a federal offense, giving the Marshals Service clear jurisdiction.
Is the mirror did the audio change in my headphones? Might just be my headphones, but I don't know.
Regardless of what the underlying state charge was. This is where financial tracking becomes central to the investigation. Deputies request records showing recent card transactions, bank withdrawals, and any financial activity in the days immediately following your disappearance, because most fugitives at this level haven't had time to fully plan a life without their existing financial identity. A single debit card swipe at a gas station 3 states away can narrow an entire search radius from a multi-state area down to a specific town within hours. Cell phone data compounds this considerably. Even a phone that's been powered off pings the last tower it connected to before shutting down, giving investigators a starting point even when a fugitive believes they've gone completely dark. Task forces working these cases treat the combination of a financial trail and a cell tower ping as the single most reliable starting point available, because both require the fugitive to make an active mistake to avoid, and most fugitives, under the pressure of actually being on the run, make that mistake within the first week. There's a specific psychological pattern deputies describe seeing repeatedly at this level. Fugitives who've never had to actually disappear before consistently underestimate how much of daily life depends on leaving a traceable footprint. Buying groceries, filling a prescription, contacting a family member to check on a pet. Each of these ordinary acts, performed without thinking because they've never had to be avoided before, becomes exactly the kind of data point investigators are trained to look for. The skill of actually staying hidden turns out to be considerably harder than most people assume until they're forced to practice it under real pressure, with real consequences for every small mistake. Level 4. The violent offender with priors. A documented history of violence changes the marshal's entire approach to a case, because at this level, the priority shifts from simple location to safe apprehension. Finding you is only half the problem once your file shows a pattern of resisting arrest or escalating to violence during prior encounters with law enforcement. Deputies handling these cases build a far more detailed profile before ever attempting contact, incorporating psychological assessment, known weapon access, and documented behavioral triggers from prior arrests. Surveillance at this level runs longer and more cautiously than at earlier levels, watching a location for days rather than moving immediately on the first sighting, specifically to understand your daily routine well enough to plan an approach that minimizes risk to both the arrest.
Now this is basically like just like how dangerous you are as like individual. Like they just plotting on you, to be honest. It's like they're not really doing nothing too crazy. It's like, okay, this nigga, we need to watch out for his ass. You know? That's what I'm getting from it. But it's like my ego is telling me I wouldn't get caught by these niggas. You know, it's like, yeah, the police. I'm all like, yeah, anybody like would submit to these people, to these men in blue. But it's like, I'm not saying I would ever go on a run. It's just a hypothetical, and it's like a little fun little story I like to tell myself. Is like, you feel me? It's, if I were to go on a run, it's like, y'all, they not catching me. They not. How would they catch me? They would never. I'll be dressed as like a fucking Caucasian homeless man. They'll catch me after 60 years on some shit.
Testing team and any bystanders who might be present. The Marshal Service's National Fugitive Task Forces, combining federal, state, and local resources, prioritize cases at this level specifically because a violent fugitive still at large represents an ongoing public safety risk rather than simply an open warrant. Coordination with local police becomes essential since local
Love Roblox? Earn Roblox
Get the
digital
fuck out
gift
my
cards
face
with
talking about some
Microsoft
love Roblox.
Rewards. Sign up for
My fucking vid, bro. What? Oh nah.
Local officers often have the most current intelligence about a specific neighborhood's activity, even when the fugitive believes they've moved somewhere unconnected to their previous life entirely. Risk assessment at this level extends beyond just the fugitive's own history. Deputies also evaluate the specific environment where an arrest is likely to occur, accounting for factors like whether children or other bystanders are typically present at a given location, and what time of day would minimize the chance of an uncontrolled encounter. This planning process can add days or weeks to an operation that, from a pure location standpoint, could technically move much faster, because the priority at this level has genuinely shifted from speed to safety for everyone involved, arresting officers and the fugitive included.
Level 5, the Sex Offender Registry Violator.
What the fuck?
Failing to register or update your address as required under state and federal sex offender registration laws
okay.
creates a specific category of fugitive case, one that draws dedicated attention through federal statutes specifically criminalizing registration violations that cross state lines. The Marshal Service runs specific operations dedicated entirely to this category, sometimes conducting sweeps that check registered addresses across an entire region within a compressed time frame specifically to identify violators quickly rather than case by case. These operations combine database cross-referencing, comparing registration records against current utility accounts, employment records, and vehicle registrations, with physical verification, sending deputies to confirm addresses in person rather than relying solely on paperwork that might be outdated or deliberately falsified. Community tip lines play an outsized role at this level compared to some others, because registration violations often come to attention through a neighbor or community member noticing that someone no longer lives at their registered address, or noticing an unregistered individual matching a known profile in a new location. The public nature of registry information, controversial as it remains in broader policy debates, functions here as a direct investigative tool that generates leads the Marshal Service doesn't have to generate entirely on their own. Cross-jurisdictional coordination adds a specific complication to this category of case that many others don't share. Registration requirements, timelines, and specific violations vary somewhat by state, meaning a violator who's technically compliant in one jurisdiction's rules might be in clear violation the moment they cross into a state with stricter requirements. Deputies working these cases have to maintain detailed knowledge of exactly how registration law differs across whatever states border their working territory, since a fugitive's entire strategy sometimes depends specifically on exploiting exactly this kind of jurisdictional inconsistency. Level 6, the multi-state fugitive. Once a fugitive has been documented moving through multiple states, evading capture for months, the case escalates to involve the Marshal Service's Investigative Operations Division, which coordinates complex, longer-running fugitive investigations requiring resources beyond what a single regional task force typically handles. At this level, deputies build a comprehensive behavioral profile drawing on every piece of information gathered from the case's entire duration.
What do salespeople hate more than anything in the world?
CRMs. Yep. Well, Monday CRM.
Turn that shit off.
types of towns the fugitive gravitates toward, whether they've shown a preference for using specific
bad for
types
the
of
dream.
temporary work to generate
That'll be
cash,
alright.
and any consistent method used to avoid identification, such as consistently using aliases that follow a recognizable pattern rather than being fully randomized. Genetic and biometric databases increasingly
I actually go wash my hands. Oh, okay.
play a role at this level too. Fingerprints taken during an unrelated minor arrest under an assumed name processed through federal databases have led to the identification of fugitives who successfully evaded capture for months using an alias, simply because routine processing procedures for even minor charges include biometric checks against national databases that don't care what name was given at booking. Behavioral profiling at this stage draws increasingly on data analysis techniques that would have been unavailable to earlier generations of fugitive hunters. Some task forces now use predictive modeling that analyzes a fugitive's documented history, hometown, family ties, past employment sectors, even climate preferences inferred from where they've previously chosen to live, to generate a ranked list of likely relocation destinations, narrowing a nationwide search into a much smaller number of higher probability regions before deputies ever commit resources to searching any specific one of them directly.
Level 7, the Most Wanted. Being placed on the Marshal Service's own Most Wanted list, reserved for the most serious and highest priority fugitives, brings a combination of resources unlike anything at the levels below it. Dedicated case agents, coordinated media campaigns generating public tips, and often a reward specifically structured to incentivize the exact kind of ordinary citizen tip that ends most high-profile fugitive cases. Aerial surveillance becomes a standard tool at this level, particularly in rural or heavily wooded search areas where ground teams alone would struggle to cover the necessary territory efficiently. Thermal imaging technology, deployed via aircraft, can identify a heat signature through forest canopy that ground searchers might walk past entirely, and canine units trained specifically for tracking work alongside these aerial resources, following scent trails that aircraft alone can identify a general area for but can't pinpoint precisely on their own. Task forces at this level also lean heavily on informant networks built over years of working fugitive cases in a specific region. Deputies who've spent a career working the same geographic territory often maintain relationships with individuals who, for a variety of reasons ranging from financial reward to personal grievance, provide information leading directly to a fugitive's location, information that no amount of technical surveillance could generate independently. Media coordination at this level is treated as its own specialized discipline rather than an afterthought. Deputies work directly with local and national news outlets to time the release of specific details: a photo, a location where the fugitive was last confirmed seen, a description of a vehicle, for maximum public visibility during the periods when tip volume is statistically most likely to convert into an actionable lead. This isn't incidental publicity. It's a deliberately engineered part of the investigative strategy, built around the well-documented pattern that a properly timed media push generates more useful leads in a single day than weeks of quiet background investigation typically produce on its own.
Level 8, International Flight.
Crossing an international border doesn't end a Marshals Service investigation.
It don't?
It changes its shape entirely,
It do?
shifting from domestic law enforcement tools to a slower, more diplomatically complex process built around international cooperation
Oh, no.
agreements. An Interpol Red Notice requested through the Marshals Service's international liaison offices alerts law enforcement agencies in member countries worldwide to a fugitive status, though the notice itself doesn't carry direct arrest authority in every country. Its practical effect depends heavily on the specific cooperation agreements between the United States and whatever country the fugitive is believed to be in. Countries with active extradition treaties process these cases considerably faster than those without formal agreements, where the entire process can stretch into years of diplomatic negotiation before a single arrest becomes possible. Marshals Service attachés stationed at U.S.
Wait, you don't write anything down after conversations?
This is Pocket. I never go anywhere without it. At the tap of a button, it records and creates organized notes based on your conversations. I use it at work, at the doctor's, and when I'm out and about. I could use an app, but it's effortless. Pocket does things no other app can do. Inside, it has a contact mic. So when I snap it to the back of my phone, it can listen to both sides of a call. No speakerphone needed. Because no one wants to be that person. This is my favorite part. I open the app, and Pocket gives me full notes for everything I record. It knows who said what, creates over 100 types of summaries, and action items are pulled out automatically. It even has a mind map of all my to-dos from every meeting in one place. The battery lasts 4 days on a single charge, with 64
U.S. embassies in key countries function similarly to the FBI's legal attachés, serving as the connective tissue between American fugitive investigations and foreign law enforcement partners. These relationships, built over years of prior cooperation on unrelated cases, frequently determine how quickly a fugitive can actually be located and returned, far more than the specific details of any individual case, because a country with an established, trusted working relationship with U.S. authorities moves considerably faster than one encountering a request like this for the first time. Some of the most protracted international fugitive cases stall not because investigators lose track of a fugitive's location, but because the diplomatic and legal process required to actually bring them back takes years to complete, even after their location is confirmed with certainty. A fugitive can be publicly known to be living in a specific city in a specific country, verified through cooperating local authorities, and still remain there for years while formal extradition proceedings work through that country's own court system, particularly in jurisdictions where the fugitive's legal team mounts extended challenges to the extradition request itself.
Level 9. The long-term cold fugitive. Some fugitives genuinely disappear for years, sometimes decades, building an entirely new identity and life so thoroughly that even dedicated investigators eventually shift the case into a lower priority status, revisited periodically rather than actively worked day to day. These cold fugitive cases increasingly get reopened through tools that didn't exist when the original warrant was issued. Forensic genetic genealogy, originally developed for identifying unknown crime victims and suspects through distant family DNA matches uploaded to consumer genealogy databases, has occasionally been applied to long-term fugitive cases where biological evidence exists from the original crime, allowing investigators to identify family connections that eventually lead to a fugitive's assumed identity, sometimes decades after the original disappearance. Facial recognition technology, applied retroactively to old photographs, has also reopened cases that seemed permanently cold. A fugitive who disappeared before this technology existed might have spent decades believing an old photograph on file could never realistically be matched against current surveillance or social media images, only for exactly that kind of retroactive matching to eventually place them in a specific city at a specific time decades after their original disappearance. Level 10. How it actually ends.
Across every level described here, from a bail jumper skipping a single court date to an international fugitive maintained on a red notice for years, the actual moment of capture tends to look remarkably similar regardless of how long the investigation took to reach it. Quiet, procedural, and almost always the product of the fugitive's own routine finally intersecting with a piece of information investigators had been waiting to confirm. Deputy marshals who've spent careers working fugitive cases consistently describe the same underlying pattern. Fugitives get caught not because any single investigative method is unbeatable, but because staying completely hidden requires maintaining flawless discipline indefinitely across every single interaction.
That's what I just said. That's literally what I just said.
While investigators only need one piece of that discipline to slip exactly once. A financial transaction, a phone left on a moment too long, a tip from someone the fugitive trusted, a routine encounter with local police that triggers a database match nobody anticipated. Any single one of these, at any point across months or years, is usually all it actually takes. The Marshals Service's own internal statistics on fugitive apprehension consistently show a resolution rate most people find surprisingly high, given how dramatic evading capture looks in popular media. The dramatic capture makes for a better story. The actual mechanics behind it are almost always the same patient, methodical accumulation of small advantages, layered one on top of another until the case simply closes itself. This pattern holds true regardless of scale, whether the investigation lasted 3 days or 3 years, whether it involved a single deputy checking a home address or a coordinated international operation spanning multiple countries. The underlying logic never actually changes. Every fugitive at every level is fighting the same losing arithmetic, needing to be perfect every single day against an investigative apparatus that only needs to be right once. If this changed how you think about what actually happens once a warrant goes out, drop the next topic you want broken down in the comments.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want, and watch it take shape.
Ooh, let's watch another one of their
You
videos.
have never been arrested.
This looks like
You have
James
never been
from the
charged
I
with a
Want Out
crime.
type style.
You have never been told by anyone in writing or out loud that you did something wrong. That's important to establish, not because it changes what happens to you, but because you're going to spend years of your life trying to prove a negative, and the negative is already true. You are an ordinary man. You pay your taxes. You return your library books. And somewhere, in a database, you will never be permitted to read. A version of you exists that the United States government considers dangerous, and that version is going to win every argument you ever have with it, because you're not allowed to know what it says. It starts small. It starts with 4 letters printed on a boarding pass. Level 1, the selectee. You're flying to a wedding, and your boarding pass has 4 extra letters stamped across the bottom. SSSS. You don't know what it means yet. You find out at the checkpoint when TSA waves you out of the normal line and into a separate lane roped off to the side. They swab your hands for explosive residue. They open your bag and run gloved fingers along the seams. They pat you down with the backs of their hands. Bored. Thorough. 9 minutes of it while your flight boards without you at the next gate over. You make it with 4 minutes to spare. You tell yourself it was random, because everybody gets randomly selected sometimes, and that's true. They do. The second time is 3 months later. Same 4 letters. Same separate lane. The third time, the agent glances at your pass and says, "You again," under his breath, and something cold moves through you, because "you again" is not what a person says about a coincidence. You ask him why. He shrugs. He genuinely doesn't know. He's reading a screen that tells him to pull you aside, and the screen doesn't explain itself to him any more than it explains itself to you. You start noticing the pattern. You can't check in online anymore. Ever. The kiosk won't print your pass. You're never in an early boarding group. You're always the manual entry, the name the agent types by hand while the line builds behind you. You start getting to the airport 3 hours early out of a caution you can't name. You've been selected 4 times in a row. That's not a coin landing heads 4 times. That's a coin someone is holding. What you don't know is how the machine actually works. There's a master list, the terrorist screening database, and it feeds smaller lists downstream. The selectee list is the soft one, the one that means extra screening, not denial. To get on it, you don't need a charge. You don't need an arrest. You need one agency to nominate you, and the bar for a nomination is reasonable suspicion, which in practice can mean a name that resembles someone else's, a wire transfer to the wrong country, a phone that pinged near the wrong protest, a tip from someone who doesn't like you. Once you're nominated, the burden flips. It's not on them to prove you belong there. It's on you to prove you don't. Except, you're not told you're on it, so you don't know there's anything to disprove. You just start getting pulled aside 4 times, 5 times, and the swab of your palms happens in front of a family with a stroller, and a stranger's gloved hands go through your folded shirts, and the whole line watches and decides something about you that isn't true. You mention it to your friend Marcus at work, half joking. Marcus has sat at the next desk for 6 years. He's the guy who covers your shift when your car dies and never brings it up again. He wears the same dark green shirt so often you tease him about it. He tells you his uncle had the same problem once, that there's a form you can file, something called a redress request, and it cleared up eventually. You write the phrase on a sticky note. You don't file it. You have no idea that this is the last level where filing it would have been simple. Level 2? The no-fly. 6 months later, the boarding pass won't print at all. The kiosk spins and tells you to see an agent. The agent types your name, and her face does the small thing faces do when a screen says something they weren't expecting. She calls a supervisor. They talk quietly, 3 feet away, about you, not to you. Then they tell you you're unable to be issued a boarding pass at this time, that they can't tell you why, and that they don't have that information. That's the part that stops you. They're not hiding the reason, they don't have it. It lives somewhere above all of them. You ask what you're supposed to do. The supervisor says you can look into the redress process. There's that word again. Nobody says no. They just make yes impossible. You have to drive 11 hours to a funeral you were going to fly to, and you have a lot of time on that drive to think about it. Your car dies 90 miles out. Marcus is the one who answers the phone at midnight and drives 2 hours to get you. He doesn't ask why you were driving instead of flying until you're both in his truck, and when you tell him, he goes quiet, then says the thing a real friend says, which isn't, "That's crazy," but, "Okay, what do we do?" He looks it up that night at his kitchen table. He prints the DHS redress form. He fills half of it out himself because you're too tired to think. Here's what neither of you knows yet. The no-fly list is a different animal than the selectee list. Selectee means extra screening. No-fly means you are considered too dangerous to be in a pressurized tube at 30,000 feet, and there are roughly tens of thousands of names on it, and the process to get off it was ruled unconstitutional once because there was no meaningful way to challenge it, and then it got rebuilt into a process that is technically constitutional and functionally the same. You will file into that process. You will wait. You are not accused of anything. You hold on to that. You are not accused. You are indicated. It's a different word, and you're just starting to learn how different. Level 3, the ghost. The watch list isn't a wall. It's a stain that spreads through everything attached to your name. Your bank sends a letter saying your account is under review. 2 weeks later, a second letter says it's closed. You call and the rep reads a script that says, "At our discretion" 4 times and answers nothing. You apply for a better job. The offer comes. 11 days later, it's quietly pulled, and the HR woman sounds genuinely sorry in a way that tells you she knows more than she can say. A background check returned something. Not a conviction. There's no conviction. A flag. A possible match. A private screening company bought from a data broker who bought it from somewhere upstream. You learn that the list has children, copies of itself living in the commercial world. in the systems that decide whether you get an apartment, a loan, a job. A wire you send to help your cousin with rent gets held and reversed, and the bank won't say by whom. Your card gets declined in a state you've never been to. You try to rent a nicer place, and the manager, warm on the phone, calls back cold and says the unit's gone, and you drive past a week later and the sign still says available. Each one is deniable on its own. A glitch, a busy month. But you're inside the pattern now, and the pattern has a texture, and the texture is 1,000 doors closing softly enough that no single one makes a sound. You get careful. You stop booking anything you can't reach by car. You pay cash. You brace before you say your own name at a
What the fuck is going on to this nigga? Like, oh, been on the
front
federal
desk,
watch list?
watching
I'm
the
all like,
clerk's
damn,
face
what did
for
he
the
do?
flicker. The one time you leave the country, for a cousin's wedding you can't miss. Coming back is worse than anything the airport ever did to you. CBP pulls you into a back room the second they scan your passport. They take your phone. They ask for the password, and when you hesitate, they tell you that at the border they don't need a warrant, that the rules that protect you standing on a street in your own city don't reach the 200 feet between the jet bridge and the customs desk. You give them the phone. They keep you 4 hours. They ask about trips you took a decade ago. They ask about a man you sat next to on a flight in 2019 whose name you never knew. They photocopy pages of your passport, take your fingerprints again even though the government already has them, and then, with no explanation, they hand it all back and tell you you're free to go. Like the 4 hours were a courtesy. You walk out into an arrivals hall full of families hugging and drivers holding signs, and you're shaking and nobody knows why. Marcus notices before you admit it. He comes over with takeout one night, sits on your floor, and says, "You've gotten smaller." Not an insult, a worry. He tells you to fight it, file the redress, get a lawyer. You tell him you're scared that filing just proves you're worth watching. He doesn't have an answer because there isn't one. That's the trap. To ask why you're on the list, you have to raise your hand, and raising your hand looks exactly like the behavior of a man with something to explain. Level 4, the contact. You file the redress. You hire a lawyer, a good one who does only this, and at the first meeting, she tells you what "does only this" actually means. The government's position in these cases is to neither confirm nor deny that you're on any list at all. You can't fight a thing they won't admit exists. She files anyway. She explains the machinery to you the way a mechanic explains why the part you need is discontinued.
With Google Play Games, you can play unlocked. Unlock rewards with
Games, it holds relationships, known associates, contacts, phone numbers you've called, addresses you've shared, forms you've filed listing other human beings.